We'd like to welcome up our next teller. Erin has a story about a walk that changed her life. Take it away.
Thanks, Megan. Um, so I know we're not flying much these days, but that wasn't the case a little while ago. And I'm going to have you join me a few years ago. I was on a flight from LAX to Melbourne, Australia. I'd put on my compression socks, was digging out my noise canceling headphones, and settling in for the 16-hour flight. Now, I took a deep breath and I looked out the window. And as I started to decompress from the week, tears started to well up in my eyes. The lead up to big trips there's always a lot going on, but this one seemed particularly stressful. There was digging out the field clothes, realizing that I needed new boots, but it's the things that you can't put on a checklist that were hardest. Now, I have always traveled for work, and so my children have grown up with it. But now that my daughter was approaching 4 and could articulate just how much she didn't want me to go and why, it was just becoming so much harder. And the irony is that one of the greatest gifts of motherhood has been to get really clear on my work in the world. And I am so grateful to do what I do. And I am so grateful to be a mom. Now, 4 years earlier, I was not yet a mom, but I was 42 weeks pregnant. Now, we all know how this works, right? 40 weeks. So I'm 42 weeks pregnant, and I was starting to truly believe that I might be the first person ever who would be steady state pregnant. Like, this baby was never going to come. I was never going to see my toes again. I was never going to be able to put on a sock by myself. And I was ready. It had been a really hard pregnancy. And I was also just ready to not have a hiccuping baby in my belly, not have to get up and pee every 30 minutes during the night. And finally, she was ready too. And she arrived and she was full of resilience and energy and opinions, like opinions from go. And she was healthy. And she was perfectly healthy. Now, during pregnancy, you learn a lot about the umbilical cord, but it all was sort of theoretical. Like, I had never seen one. And I'm watching the umbilical cord as it's still attached to both of us, and it's pulsating with love and life and mystery. And in that moment, I realized that, like it or not, we are literally tied to our parents and our grandparents and everyone who's come before us. And we are tied to our children and our grandchildren and everyone who will come after us. And in that moment, I was filled with this upwelling of gratitude and awe. I was so grateful for my parents and grandparents, everyone who'd come before me, what they had to overcome, the choices they made, the good, the bad, the wisdom they'd accrued, the idiosyncrasies they passed down, all of it that came together, and just awe for the unlikelihood of all those chance encounters, that everything that had to happen to make this moment, my life and my daughter's life, possible. And as they cut the cord and put that squirmy, bright blue-eyed baby on my chest, I knew that part of my role during my time in this, much larger continuum was to create a future where our children can thrive. Now, that commitment was not just to my daughter and to those who my umbilical cord tethers me to, but to all of those that we share this land with. We're all in this together, always have been, and always will be. Now, that realization didn't change everything at once, and spending time on the land with Indigenous elders has really helped me understand what that means for me. On this particular trip, after Melbourne, I was going to continue on west to Broome, Australia, and then drive to Nikanamungla country, where I was going to meet up with Linda Nardea, who is one of those elders I've learned so much from. I was part of a team at the Nature Conservancy supporting the Nicanamungla to advance their vision for their lands and their future. And Linda was one of the leaders in that community. Now, Linda and I, we are about the same age, but she's a grandmother and I'm a mother. And Linda has dedicated her life to passing down the culture and language and sense of responsibility for how to care for the land to the next generation. On this trip, Linda and I were walking, and she was pointing out in the cliffs where her ancestors reside. We were accompanying this Aboriginal ranger crew, and she was instructing them on these are the protocols for how you address the ancestors. And also, really practically, how you do traditional burning, how you care for the medicinal plants. And as we're walking, we were talking about just this responsibility to the next generation. And we're sounding like we're in agreement, but I realized that we meant it in a bit of a different way. So as we're walking, she elbowed me and pointed down to our feet. Now there's this like hard packed orange dirt and these really dry, brittle shrubs and brambles. And Linda's walking barefoot. Meanwhile, I'm in my new laced up boots with my, socks tucked over my pants. And she asked, "Do you know why I can walk barefoot?" Because the land knows me. She reaches up to protect my feet because I take care of her. And she pointed at my boots and said, "She doesn't know you yet. You need to wear boots." That it's not rhetorical for Linda. With every step she takes, she's reinforcing this caring, long-standing relationship with the land. Now, Linda's relationship with the land is so powerful and so unique. And in Nicanamungla country, the land and the people have been caring for each other for 50,000 years. That's something I will never know. And yet, at the same time, she stirred a remembrance in me because there's something universally human about being in relationship with your place. I was brought to a place that my feet do know, where I can feel the sand between my toes and the cool breeze on my cheeks. It's a place where my parents and my grandparents took me, and where I now take my children to look for crabs and watch for shooting stars and to just sit and listen and be. And as I was struck by kind of that fundamental truth as we looked at our feet, I also felt gypped. I felt hoodwinked because so much of my training and my career was about understanding and communicating our relationship and our responsibility to our lands and waters. But from this lens of like Western science and management, I use terms like economic value, monetizing carbon, biodiversity richness, and ecosystem services. And I could be really precise, but it had gotten so impersonal. One of Linda's many gifts to me has been to help me remember how deeply personal my work is. It's about me and my children, our future and our history and the land. And as Linda and I stood there and looked down at our feet, I realized that a healthy future for my children, for all our children, meant that I needed to change how I thought about myself in the world. I needed to be in relationship with the land and really truly recognize how much we are part of each other. And I am so grateful to Linda and other elders who have shown me and continue to show me what it means to walk in the world in this way. Thank you.